to Thunder Thursday on News OK Live. I'm Mike Sherman, sports editor of the Oklahoman, with our intrepid Thunder coverage team. Headlined by Thunder beat writer Darnell Mayberry, who was in San Antonio last night for whatever we're going to call that. We'll figure out what we're going to call that here in a second. Thunder beat writer Anthony Slater from his home high atop Oklahoma City.
13 floors up.
13 floors up. From somewhere in the bowels of Chesapeake Energy Arena, columnist Jenny Carlson, and
what is this?
Looking like a mountain man.
from the Carrier Dome, Grizzly Adams.
He's wearing the new jacket, though. He's muted. Unmute yourself.
The last of the Mohicans. I was in Cooperstown yesterday.
I love Thunder Thursday. Thunder Thursdays are brought to you by our good friends at Wheeler Chevrolet. Take that drive out down I-40. Save yourself time and money. What are we going to do? Let's start right there. Barry?
He's got the best backdrop.
Barry,
Barry, was it Pat Jones who said something about the Iroquois? Isn't that where Barry is? He's in the land of the Iroquois.
Fort Ticonderoga.
Fort Ticonderoga.
Barry, is your wife watching this podcast or this hangout? Or have you done any FaceTiming with her in the last week?
No, she sort of knows what I look like. She doesn't need to see me. It'll be gone by the time I hit Oklahoma soil. I promise you that.
Darnell,
I like it.
Darnell,
Says the bearded wonder.
Darnell, a review of Barry's newfound facial expression. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Down. Thumbs down.
Let me say this about RFD. In the history of my life, I've had several women, starting with my mother, tell me to get my hair cut. The only male I can ever remember telling me to get my hair cut is my old friend RFD. So he fancies himself quite the critic. You are in good company. You are in good company.
Okay, now that we've sort of recovered, let's talk about.
I haven't. Every time Barry pops up big on my screen, I have not recovered. Sorry.
Steady yourself. Everybody maintain. Okay, Darnell.
Yes, sir.
What happened in San Antonio last night?
Sort of the same thing that's been happening for the past month now. The Thunder hasn't played good defense on the road. They're getting picked apart. The Spurs did whatever they wanted to do, and the Spurs come out of there with a 39-point win, the largest of the season, the second largest margin of defeat for the Thunder in the franchise's Oklahoma City era. So kind of more of the same. This defense is in bad shape, and they got to figure it out and figure it out soon.
Okay, play mechanic. My car is the Thunder defense. What's wrong with it, and what's it going to cost to fix it?
I think it's gonna cost some sacrifice. I think guys, they're not playing hard enough defensively. They're not playing together. They're not playing smart. They're just doing a lot of things. They're taking risk on the perimeter, gambling. They're letting their men blow by them too easily, and that's collapsing the defense and making it tougher for everyone. It's just putting pressure on the entire team's defense, where simple ball movement is really beating this team right now. And I think it's going to take guys buying in to get back to what they used to do. I think you mentioned it earlier in an email today, playing on the string, playing for each other. Those are the things that have to happen first and foremost. I mean, we can talk about fundamentals and who's actually capable of doing those things, but first off, guys got to buy in my opinion.
Anthony, Darnell says the remedy is a lot of effort-based stuff, but what's your diagnosis of the problem?
I mean, I think the biggest problem is Serge Ibaka's out. The Thunder, the last 5 seasons, has been number 1 or number 2 in the NBA in blocks per game. And if you look at their blocks, Serge Ibaka has over half of them every season. I think he had 251 last season. The next closest was Kevin Durant at 77. Kevin Durant is also out, and he's a pretty good two-way player. So I think personnel-wise, they don't have the goalkeeper that they've always had behind there. They had one block last night. Mitch McGary had some random block, I think, on like a Boris Diaw layup. It's an issue because this team maybe has become too over-reliant on knowing they kind of have an eraser back there, but he's gone, and they haven't adjusted.
Anthony, a couple weeks ago, Barry told us that everything was going to be well because the Defensive Player of the Year, Kyle Singler, was on hand, and that
the only person that's ever called Kyle Singler Defensive Player of the Year is Barry Trammell. I'm just going to say that right now, and you now. I mean, you all have. I'm the only one who's never called him Defensive Player of the Year.
Barry, what's the Thunder's defensive problem, and how can they fix it? And can they fix it?
He's muted.
Gotta unmute yourself, Barry.
You got to unmute
There we go. All right, there we go. Getting Robertson back and Ibaka back, particularly Serge, is the first step. But, I mean, there's no secret. I mean, last night, look at what's out on the court. They had Augustine and Morrow and Mitch McGary for extended periods of time. Those guys can't guard anybody. Steve Novak's playing some. Those guys can't guard anybody. And when you're playing a professional team, you're going to get lit up, and that's what's happened. So, I mean, there's a reason. I know it. Nobody ever liked it, but there's a reason Thabo Sefolosha played, and there's a reason Andre Robertson plays, because they can guard people. And we saw what the Thunder's like. We saw it last year against San Antonio when Serge is out. So, to me, it's purely personnel.
And part of that personnel, of course, Jenny, was until a couple months or a month ago, was Kendrick Perkins. A lot is being talked about Enes Kanter, especially in this office. I think he's a splendid offensive player, but he really looks like a turnstile when it comes to pick and roll. Is it the backbone of the Thunder's defense that's the biggest problem, or is it the perimeter part, which Darnell seems to be saying?
Well, I mean, I think that there's fault both ways. I mean, I don't think you can say it's one or the other. Now, granted, Kanter is definitely a humongous defensive step backwards from Kendrick Perkins. But we've seen that perimeter defense be an issue. It was an issue before Kendrick Perkins was sent away. We saw that earlier in the year. I can't remember what game I covered, but they got it figured out late. But it was definitely porous, and a lot of it was the guard play. Guys just letting the conga line to the basket start from the perimeter, and you can't do that. I understand Russell Westbrook's playing hard a lot of the game, and so there's going to be times when he's maybe not quite as locked in defensively. I guess you have to have those mental and physical moments of break, but man, the rest of those guys have got to at least try to put up a little bit of a fence to the goal. Otherwise, I mean, I think what Darnell said is right. A team that moves the ball like San Antonio does, that just looked like practice against air out there a couple of times last night. And it goes back to something we talked about at the trade deadline too. This team looks like it's becoming a team that just wants to outrun you, out-track meet you. And on nights like last night when they weren't shooting it all that well and they got behind, there was no catching up because they couldn't get any defensive stops. I mean, at one point Scott Brooks says in the huddle, if anybody has a 21-point play, we'll run it. I think it was either Darnell or Anthony that said that Dion Waiters probably raised his hand and said, I think I might know one. But the other part of that message was we got to get stops, and those guys didn't get stops, and they couldn't get stops. And against really good teams that move it like San Antonio does, if you fall behind as much as they did and you're off offensively, that's going to be a hard equation for a team that has defensive deficiencies like this right now to catch up.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
Can we stop blaming injuries for this team's what's ailing this team right now?
No.
I don't know.
Can we stop blaming injuries? Because here's the deal. Andre Robertson's only missed the last 3 games. This team's problems are bigger than the last 3 games. Serge Ibaka has only missed the last 8 games, and this team's problems extend much beyond that. They gave up 115 points to the Hawks with Andre Robertson in the lineup. They gave up 118 points to the Celtics with Andre Robertson in the lineup. They gave up 119 points to the Mavs with Andre Robertson in the lineup. They gave up 120 to the Clippers at home with Serge Ibaka and Andre Robertson in the lineup. The list goes on. 118 in overtime to Philadelphia at home with Serge Ibaka and Andre Robertson in the lineup. So this team's problems are not solely because of injuries defensively. So I think it's just time that we all just really realize that and stop blaming the injuries for what's going on with this team defensively right now.
Okay.
No, hey, RFD, you're exactly right. But I think if you count the injuries and the trade, the Thunder clearly traded away defense for offense. And they've gotten great offense out of it, but they've also gotten bad defense. So I think that's something in the offseason they have to address. What kind of a mess they put themselves in defensively with this roster that's so good on offense.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted two-way players, and what they got was one-way players except the other way. Barry, so do you agree? No more blaming injuries. You agree?
Well, I mean, anytime Serge is out, things go south in a hurry, even if no matter how you've been playing. So injuries play a factor. But RFD's right. The problem started long before Robertson and Serge got hurt these last 8 games. Frankly, they were playing okay defense until they traded Perk. Not to push anybody's buttons, but the truth of the matter is they've fallen off the cliff.
He's been big time in Cleveland. He has been big time in Cleveland, I gotta say.
Anthony, which team is the real Thunder? The team that beat the Hawks on Friday night or got smoked in San Antonio on Wednesday? Which is a truer indication of where this team is right now?
I mean, right now, with everyone out who's expected to be out for the season, at home, I think it's the team that beat the Hawks. On the road, I think it's the team that lost to the Spurs. They're going to play these 127, 117 games. I think they're going to win most of the time at home, and I think they're going to lose most of the time against good teams on the road. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to play the Warriors, and I think they're going to go out in 5 or 6 games.
Jenny, is it simple as that? Home road split?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's as simplistic as that, but I do think on the road, clearly this team is not as good as they are at home. I mean, I think it really comes down to we've talked about this before. In the West, the teams that are sort of up and coming, the teams that we've seen sort of trying to be, really get to that contender status, have largely been teams that are offense first. If you look back the last few years, the Warriors run and gun, the Rockets run and gun, the track meet, the get out and go, the Clippers doing that too. But the teams that really separate themselves and go to the top of the conference, whether you're talking about San Antonio a year ago, the Thunder a couple years ago, the Warriors this year, the Grizzlies this year, it's teams that are not only great offensively, but are also playing some defense. I mean, that's where you see the separation in the West. All these teams play offense really well, but if you really want to be in that upper elite crust, that up echelon in the West, it's about playing some defense. I mean, the Warriors finally started playing defense, and look what happened. They're the team to beat now. So the Thunder, defensive disposition, please, let's cut it out. Anytime Scott Brooks says it, I do my darndest not to laugh, because it's not a team with a defensive disposition right now at all.
I haven't said it a lot since the trade deadline, of course. Hey, listen, a wild card question I thought I had to throw in here based on the level of passion it inspired in the office, including certain members of this esteemed panel. ESPN's rolling out some rankings, front offices, coaches. This week or today it came out with this coaches ranking, Barry. It ranked Scott Brooks as the 19th best coach in the NBA. Too low? Too high? What's your call, Barry?
Well, I assume Scott's somewhere in the middle. However, I think the whole rankings are a farce for this reason. Steve Kerr was second or third. Help me. I think he was third, maybe. Second or third. Derek Fisher was last. But in the offseason, if Derek Fisher had gone and coached the Warriors and Steve Kerr had went and coached the Knicks, those roles would be reversed. Steve Kerr would be 29th or 30th. Derek Fisher would be 2nd or 3rd. So I impeached the panel. They don't have any. They have no validity with me.
There's 200 of them. Impeach them all. Your rankings are a farce. Too high or
Off
too
with their
low.
head.
Anthony, what about it?
You're asking me? I don't care. I'm with Barry. I don't care that I don't like ranking coaches. I don't like ranking systems. I didn't even look at the article. I don't care.
Darnell Mayberry.
Well, he's ranked 20th on this NBA rank, whatever they're calling it, and it's way too low.
Jenny.
Yeah, it is too low. And, you know, look at some of the lineups that Scott Brooks had to play last night. He had Perry Jones, Kyle Singler, Steve Novak, Dion Waiters. No, not Dion Waiters. Who else was out there? Morrow, and Mitch McGarry. I mean, those were the guys he had out there at one point. And I'm sorry, but that's some of the wacky lineups he's thrown out there all season because of the injuries. So if he's going to have to play some of these crazy combinations and they're still in the playoff hunt, please, 20th, give me a break.
I need a 20. You have violated the Darnell doctrine by even implying an injury excuse. I'm sorry. That's a violation of the Darnell doctrine.
By the way, it looks a little bit like Darnell is like shrouded in some sort of golden glow behind him. He's got this light that makes him look like he's got a halo. It's kind of
Makes me wise. Shows my infinite wisdom.
Well, that too, but it's weirding me out a little bit. So.
How's that, Jenny? Is that better?
Oh, yeah, it was okay before. I just thought I'd throw it out there.
All right.
Okay, guys, let's skip to the fill-in-the-blank portion of the program. Barry, a Thunder Warriors series would be blank.
Oh, I think it'd be wildly entertaining and mostly one-sided.
Anthony.
Golden State in 5.
It would be painful but quick.
Darnell.
It would be a bloodbath. I don't see the Thunder getting a game. Not playing this defense.
Jenny.
Wow. Where do you go from there? Bloodbath? You know, again, at the risk of Darnell smiting me from on high, depends on who the Thunder have in the short pants at that point. I mean, if Serge Ibaka's back, if Andre Robertson's back, it looks a little different. But, I don't think they're winning a series against the Warriors, regardless of those guys and their health. But tell me who you got healthy, and then I'll tell you how bloody it's going to be.
My answer is it would be needed for the Oklahoman sports staff because we're going to have to figure out a playoff preview plan, and we've got a good theme right now, behind the 8 ball. And guess what? If they climb to 7th, we can't do behind the 7th ball. I don't think that's a deal.
Whatever happened to the last shot? Did we scrap that?
No, you know what? On the recommendation of Barry Trammell, I think we might kick that into the future, as in next season, and give it the true double meaning next season when it might be the last shot and the last shot. What do you think?
I love it, especially since if Kevin Durant's not playing, it's not a question who's going to get the last shot. It's Russell Westbrook.
See? There you go. Good thinking. Okay, guys, we're at the last part of the program in 30 seconds or less. I'm going to give each of you a question, and you got to answer in 30 seconds or less. Darnell, you first.
Okay.
In 30 seconds or less, give us your Siskel and Ebert review of Son of Congo.
Well, I wished I watched Siskel and Ebert more as a kid because I would be able to give you a better impersonation
You're wasting
of one of the two because I'm filling out my 30 seconds. But I thought it was well done. You know, Serge really opened up. He's not really a guy who likes to open up and talk about his personal life. He showed his interactions with his daughter, who people really don't know about. He's got a 7-year-old daughter over in Congo. He showed his volunteer work, his charitable givings over in Africa. He really does a good job getting involved in the community and giving back. So he really opened up. He let us see his family, kind of where he comes from, his financial responsibilities to them. And it was really just well done. And I thought Serge deserves some credit for opening up and telling that side of his life. And I think people will enjoy it.
Barry, in 30 seconds or less, what kind of wisdom have you come back with from your week three of your college basketball binge? And what's that done for your basketball perspective?
College basketball at the highest levels is fairly passable.
Passable.
So in March, college basketball is a March sport. That's what I thought, and that's what was reinforced. It's not a regular season sport. We were talking earlier today. OU played Michigan State last season. Nobody even remembers the game. They were ranked number 1. Nobody even remembers that they played. So this sport
Michigan
has a lot
State
to
was
shoot
ranked
itself
number
in.
1 last year?
Yeah.
In the nation when they played the Sooners.
Oh my
So
goodness.
they play in secrecy. In March the curtains are drawn and pulled back, and you get to watch and realize it. So
Wow.
it just reminds you of how much this sport is just played in the shadows until March.
Jenny, in 30 seconds or less, the Thunder player not named Kevin, Russell, or Serge, or I guess Anthony now, since Anthony Morrow has been profiled by our good friend Anthony Slater.
Yep.
Which Thunder player are you dying to profile?
Oh, great question. You know what? We've written some about him. I've written some about him, but frankly, I think Steven Adams is probably the most interesting character if we're getting past those 4. Now, I will be working soon on a Dion Waiters piece. I believe that's been handed over to me, so at some point I'll get to learn more about him. I don't know anything about him, really, other than he went to Syracuse and kind of made people mad there, and was in Cleveland and kind of made people mad there. So I don't really know much about him, but Steven Adams came from a big family. Sister's the shot putter, grew up in New Zealand, rough background, wanted to be a farmer. There's a lot about Steven Adams I'm just fascinated by. So I'd probably say Steven. Sorry, Anthony, I took your guy.
Shot clock violation.
I
Jenny, by
got
the way.
Ennis is the guy I'm going after right now. So you didn't
Go
take
ahead.
Oh
Go
wait,
ahead, Anthony.
so now Steven's off your favorites list?
No, I mean he's still of anyone I enjoy talking to him the most on the team, and I think all 4 of us would probably agree on that. But
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, Anthony, you're getting ready to do it in his Cantor profile. You've done a little research into him. Most interesting fact or question you've come up with?
It's really interesting. I've actually read a lot about him at this point. His issues with the Turkish national team, his issues when he was 16, and there's a lot of interesting things with him, but I don't want to spoil the heart of the story or what I'm going to find out about him. So I'll just say, hey, he's a huge WWE wrestling fan. He loves The Undertaker, and when he was at Kentucky, which some people don't remember, he went to Kentucky, he didn't play there. They called him Under Cantor because he loved The Undertaker so much.
Under Cantor. Well, we're over time right now. That's all for this edition of Thunder Thursdays, but you can stay with the best coverage team anywhere. Every day at News OK and every morning in the Oklahoman. Barry, find your way to a Walgreens and get a razor.